Hi, my name is Nicole. I'm the Utah Conservation Corps AmeriCorps Coordinator, and the slideshow that you're about to view is going to review IPT, which is our intern placement tracking website used to track your service hours throughout your term. And then I'm going to review My AmeriCorps, which is another website that you will use at the beginning and end of your term when you start and finish. So if you have any questions at the end of this slideshow, feel free to contact me via phone or email anytime. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. Welcome to the Utah Conservation Corps Individual Placement Program. This PowerPoint will take about 30 minutes. And if you haven't already, go ahead and grab a pen and paper or something to take notes on as we go through this. We're going to start off by talking a little bit about what it's like to be an AmeriCorps member through the Utah Conservation Corps and then through your individual service site. So who do you belong to? AmeriCorps is a national service program that's funded at the federal level. The funding assists local programs like the UCC to support AmeriCorps service positions like the one that you'll be entering into to address local community needs throughout the state of Utah. To put it in a different way, AmeriCorps is somewhat like a domestic Peace Corps, so there are thousands of AmeriCorps members serving at any given time throughout the United States, and you are just one of those members that comprises that big picture. Underneath the AmeriCorps umbrella, we have the Utah Conservation Corps, which is a state AmeriCorps program that supports positions related to conservation and stewardship, environmental education, and sustainability. And then UCC partners with your individual service site based on common goals involving conservation, stewardship, environmental ed, and sustainability. Again, UCC is an AmeriCorps state program, and what you've committed to is an AmeriCorps term of service with the UCC. During this term of service, you'll receive a living allowance and a Seagull AmeriCorps Education Award at the end of your term of service. Your member service agreement is an official document that you have signed or will sign that outlines the terms and provisions of your UCC AmeriCorps term of service, and this is found on the IPT website. Within this form, there are your service term dates, living allowance information, prohibited activities while you're serving AmeriCorps hours, and the requirements to receive your education award. This is a document that you'll want to read through thoroughly and make sure that you understand. If you have any questions, please email or give me a call. I'm happy to answer those. You can access this document anytime on your IPT account. Living allowance and service hours. So your living allowance is a set amount of money that is evenly dispersed throughout your term of service based on your original term dates and your minimum service hour commitment. Payments are going to be the same each pay date, regardless of how many hours you work per week or per month. The disbursement amount will remain the same every 2 weeks throughout your term of service. It is your responsibility to stay on track to complete your hours requirement by your end date, and you can work with your site supervisor at your service site to ensure that you're on track to complete your hours. But at the end of the day, it is your responsibility to make sure that these are completed by the end of your term. I can adjust your end date, but not your payment schedule. So if you get to the last day of your term of service, or you're coming up on it and you realize that you're going to be short on your hours, you can talk to your site supervisor and talk to me, and we can look into extending your end date to ensure that you complete your minimum hours requirement. You will not get paid extra for the extra weeks of work to complete your hours requirement. But this will allow you to successfully complete your term of service and receive your education award. So I can adjust your end date, but not your payment schedule. That will remain the same as is listed in your member service agreement on IPT. Living allowance payments are paid on the 10th and 25th of each month via direct deposit through Utah State University's payroll system. These living allowance payments are subject to tax withholdings. So the amount listed on your member service agreement on IPT is before tax, so that is a gross amount. The payments will be taxed before they are deposited into your bank account. Information on pay stubs, direct deposit info that you've submitted, and then access to your W-2 at the end of the year can be found on USU Banner. If you haven't received information on this or haven't received an A number yet, that will be coming. Please contact me as soon as possible if you do miss a payment or if a payment is not in the amount that you are intended to receive. That way we can get that fixed as soon as possible. Here's what the USU employee portal, the banner system, looks like. So you'll use your A number to log in, and you'll need to set up a strong password through Utah State University to be able to access this portal. Suspension of term of service. So once you begin your term, sometimes, unforeseen events come up in life that you just need to take time off to be able to deal with, whether that's someone close to you passing away, if you need a surgery. We call these compelling personal circumstances. And these are situations where we can suspend your term of service. This can be for, weeks to months at a time, depending on what the circumstance is. And you, me, and your site supervisor can all work together to determine how we want to handle a situation like this should it arise. If you are suspended from your term of service, your living allowance and other benefits are also going to be suspended for the duration of the term suspension. The suspension also extends the time frame that you have to complete your term of service. So if you're serving a full year term from January through December, AmeriCorps members have up to 1 full year, 365 calendar days to complete their term of service. But say you need to suspend your term of service for 2 months during that time and you can't serve any hours, those 2 months will be tacked on to the end of your term of service. So your service term end date will be pushed ahead 2 extra months. So it's essentially like you're not in your term of service for that time of the suspension. And those extra days will then be added onto the end so that you can still successfully complete all of your hours and receive your education award. This is a situation where you'll need to immediately notify your site supervisor and me at the UCC office to evaluate and then initiate the suspension of your term of service. Another item to note is that you cannot serve multiple AmeriCorps terms of service concurrently, so you can't be on suspension from a term of service and serve another AmeriCorps term while you're on that suspension. Early release from a term of AmeriCorps service. UCC and your host site will follow disciplinary policies and procedures if needed to release you from your term of service. If early release does occur, there'll be termination of your living allowance and other benefits effective immediately. You'll also forfeit your eligibility to receive the education award if you're dismissed or leave your term of service early. Exceptions can apply in situations, again, of compelling personal circumstances. You can work with me at the UCC office if a situation like this arises and you need to end your term of service early and absolutely cannot come back to complete your hours. We can look into getting you a prorated education award. Again, if this is a situation of a compelling personal circumstance. So again, with something like this, I'll be working closely with you and your site supervisor to determine how we want to move forward. Exiting procedure. So to successfully complete and exit your AmeriCorps term of service, you'll have to have the following documentation submitted and approved by your end date. So this will be, recording all of your service hours, completing exit forms, making sure that all of your data reporting is up to date, completing an evaluation with your site supervisor, and then an end of term survey. You'll want to check in with me at the UCC office as you approach the end of your term of service so that I can initiate this exiting procedure. And this slide is just to kind of give you an idea of, you'll start in your term of service, you'll get enrolled, and then about 2 weeks before your end date, I'll send you an email that outlines all of these items. So that way we can get you exited successfully and on time. Your Seagull AmeriCorps Education Award, how to obtain this. So it's pretty simple: fulfilling your service term dates, meeting your minimum hours requirement, completing the exit procedure, and then accessing this is going to be directly through your myamericorps.gov account, which we'll talk a little bit about in a few more slides. Using your education award, this can be put towards federal student loans, future accredited schooling or training. And this award is good for 7 years. So on your myamericorps.gov account, this money will sit there for 7 years, not taxed, until you are ready to use it. Just for your information, AmeriCorps term and ed award limits. You can serve up to 4 state or national terms of service in your lifetime. So the term of service that you will be enrolled in or are currently enrolled in will count as 1 term of service with AmeriCorps. And again, you can only serve up to 4 of these total, no matter how many hours each term is. 4 total. Each term counts as 1, no matter how many hours the term is set for. And then education award limits, you can only receive up to 2 full-time education awards in a lifetime. And so this is cumulative. So say you're serving a full-time 1,700-hour term of service right now, and then next year you serve another full-time 1,700-hour term. That would equal 2 full-time education awards. So 1 for this year, 1 for the term that you do next year, and then say you do a half-time 900-hour term worth 0.5 education awards, so half of a full education award amount. You can still serve that term of service because it would be your 3rd AmeriCorps term of service. You've done the 1 full-time, the 2nd full-time, and then now you're doing your 3rd 900-hour half-time term of service, but you would not be eligible to receive that 0.5 education award because you've already received 2 full-time education awards from the first 2 1,700-hour terms. That's just one example. There's many different ways you can go about this, and it can definitely be a little bit confusing. So if you have any questions or concerns about this, please give me a call or send me an email anytime. Happy to walk you through it. National criminal history check. So this is something that's required for all AmeriCorps members that come into our program. You have to be fingerprinted at an approved site with live scan services, and these fingerprints are then submitted to me digitally. UCC's policy on criminal history checks is that you have no murder convictions or sex offenses. Those are the 2 biggest things that we look for that can bar you from serving as an AmeriCorps member with our program. Let's talk a little bit about benefits now. Health insurance. So as an AmeriCorps member, you have access to health insurance through the healthcare.gov marketplace. You have to enroll within 60 days of your start date. So even if healthcare.gov is not having an open enrollment period at the time that you start your AmeriCorps term of service, you receive a special enrollment period because you are an AmeriCorps member. And again, you have to enroll in a plan within 60 days of your first date of your service term. For 1,700-hour full-time members, UCC will cover up to $100 a month of your premium payments for medical and dental coverage should you choose to take advantage of this health insurance option. For any members less than 1,700 hours, UCC will not cover the cost of up to $100 of your premiums, but you are still eligible to enroll in a health insurance plan through healthcare.gov. within 60 days of your start date. If you are enrolled in a healthcare plan at the beginning of your AmeriCorps term of service, so on your start date, UCC is not able to reimburse any associated costs with that pre-existing plan. If you have a current medical plan and elect to enroll in a dental plan through the marketplace as an AmeriCorps member, UCC is also unable to reimburse the cost of that dental plan. Because it is not an insurance requirement to avoid government penalties. If you have any questions about health insurance, again, send me an email or give me a call and we can talk through that. Childcare services are available for full-time 1,700-hour members only if needed. And again, contact me for more information and to check eligibility requirements if this is something you would like to pursue. The AmeriCorps Member Assistance Program. This is a really great free 24/7 hotline that's available to all of our AmeriCorps members. This page can be found on the individual placement Dropbox, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But this is a hotline, personal, professional, and private that you can use to get assistance and get more resources for psychological counseling. If you need to just talk to somebody about, anything going on in life, with your AmeriCorps program, the folks at this hotline can help or get you the resources that you need. So something to keep in mind that is available to you throughout your term. Other additional benefits that you may be eligible for as an AmeriCorps member: food stamps. This is a big one that a lot of our members take advantage of. It is not currently available to you if you are a student. You will not be eligible for food stamps. Otherwise, if you do want to take advantage of this opportunity, UCC can provide a letter of verification, and you'll just need to contact me to request this letter. The food stamp application is done through the Utah Department of Workforce Services website. If you have any questions about this, send me an email or give me a call and we can talk a little bit more about it. But again, this is something that a lot of our members choose to enroll in because you are making a very minimal amount of money as an AmeriCorps member, and you're providing a really great, invaluable public service to the state of Utah and the country as a whole. So this is definitely a benefit that a lot of folks choose to take up while they're in their term of service. Student loan forbearance on qualifying loans. You can apply for this benefit through your myamericorps.gov account. The same goes for student loan interest accrual payback. Also can be applied for through your myamericorps.gov account. And you won't be able to apply for either of those until you are officially enrolled in your term of service on your first day. Policies and procedures. So you want to read through the full policies and procedures included in your UCC AmeriCorps manual. This is found on the individual placement drop box. You will be held accountable in your AmeriCorps term of service to uphold these policies and procedures and follow them. Prohibited activities highlights. So there is a list of prohibited activities in the aforementioned manual. But just to highlight a few, as an AmeriCorps member, you may not do the following while you are serving AmeriCorps hours: political advocacy or lobbying, leading religious activities, or providing direct benefit to a for-profit entity, labor union, etc. Prohibited activities are also listed in your member service agreement on IPT, so if you have any questions about these, please let me know. Two important websites that I've mentioned a lot already in this PowerPoint. The first one is IPT and the second is My AmeriCorps. So we're going to go ahead and talk about each of those and what they are used for. IPT. So this is your official AmeriCorps member file for this AmeriCorps term of service with UCC. You'll use this website throughout your term of service very regularly, so you'll want to make sure that you save your login information. On here, you'll record your service hours, view enrollment forms, and other documentation. A little intro to IPT. Organization ID is always going to be UCOVAC. That can be upper or lowercase, and then you'll set your own username and password. IPT is secure and confidential, and you'll have this account which will store all of your info for your UCC AmeriCorps term of service. The main homepage will look like this. You'll have the Home tab, the Student Detail tab, and then the My Forms tab on the left-hand side. So if you click on Student Detail, you'll see a page with your name at the top, and then all of your contact information, emergency contact info. If there are any blanks in this top part of the page, you'll want to go ahead and fill those in and click Save. That way they're saved to your profile and both you and I can have access to that information. Your AmeriCorps Member Service Agreement and Enrollment Form are stored on here under the My Forms tab. And again, you'll use this site to report, sign, and track your service hours throughout your term of service. Okay, looking at service hour records or your official timesheets for UCC. These are submitted monthly through IPT, and you'll want to follow the instructions exactly to ensure that you are properly documenting your hours. So to begin, you'll click into the My Forms section of your IPT website. And then you'll click View next to the particular service hour record that you want to log hours on or look at. So once you've clicked View on the left-hand side for the specific service hour record that you need to record hours on, you'll see that there are a few different columns. The first column being the date. The service hour records are going to be assigned monthly, so it will be for one full month, and the dates are auto-populated. The first thing that you're going to need to fill in is the description of day's activities. And here you'll see different selections for member development or training, volunteer recruitment, coordination or management, environmental education, or no hours served. There are also two other check boxes, which are habitat restoration and trail construction or maintenance. But those will not be pertinent to you as an individual placement. Those are for UCC field crews, which is a whole nother aspect of our program. So specifically, you'll be checking either member development or training, volunteer recruitment, coordination, management, environmental ed, or no hours served, depending on what you did for that day. And then to the right of that column, you'll see the member development and direct services columns. Those are where you will record all of the hours that you serve. You will not be using the fundraising column for anything. Everything that you do should go under either member development or direct services. And we are going to talk a little bit about what constitutes each of those descriptors. So like we just looked at, the drop-down menu has predetermined service descriptions that you'll have to use. You'll choose the one that best relates to your day-to-day service activities. These are not all inclusive. These are what the state of Utah has us use for you to record hours. So you, again, just choose the one that will fit best in accordance to what you've been doing that day. So first, looking at member development or training. These are hours where you are receiving training or education to better perform in your position. So this is not when you're training someone else. This is when you specifically are being trained to perform the duties of your job. These hours are going to be recorded in the member development column. And if we go back here real quick, so if you check member development or training in the description of day's activities as something you did that day, you received 2 hours of training at your service site, those hours will have to be recorded in this first member development column. Okay, and then direct services. So this will be for you guys, environmental education or volunteer recruitment, coordination, or management. And these hours are going to be recorded in column 2. The direct services column. You'll want to treat these categories very inclusively. All service that you do at your site should be described as one or more of there's 4 options, but you'll only be using the top 2, but it needs to fit in one of those top 2 categories, the environmental ed or the volunteer recruitment, coordination, or management option. And we'll go back again here real quick and look. So we talked about member development or training. If that box is checked, hours need to be in the member development column. If you are checking volunteer recruitment, coordination, management, and or environmental ed, you'll need to have hours recorded in the direct services column. You can check multiple boxes for each day. So you can check member development or training, volunteer recruitment, and environmental education all for one day, which is definitely fine. But there needs to be hours recorded in the member development column reflecting anytime you receive training, and then there needs to also be hours recorded in the direct services column where you were performing volunteer recruitment, coordination, management, or completing environmental education. Okay. So once you have completed the month, you want to make sure you go back and review all of your hours, make sure that you have hours in the appropriate column for member development or direct service based on what you selected in the description of day's activities. One other item to note before we look into completing the record, if you don't serve any hours on a date, you'll want to select the no hours served checkbox. And then you do not need to enter zeros in all of the columns. Those will auto-populate. If you haven't served any hours on a specific date, just check no hours served. All right, so you've gone through and you've made sure that all of your description of day's activities are correctly selected, and you've made sure that all of your hours are entered appropriately in the direct services or member development column. You will press click to sign completed document at the bottom of the form. You'll type in your signature and then click submit signature. Once this is done, your site supervisor will receive an email that your record is complete, and then they will come in and sign. And then I will receive an email that they've signed off on it, and then I will check off all of your hours as well. If anything is incorrect that you've done on that form, your signature will be cleared and the form will be sent back to you to make corrections. One other item to note, you'll see the Save Work button at the bottom of the form. If you choose to track hours on the form throughout the month, you'll want to, if you've entered something for a date, you'll just want to click Save Work here on at the bottom of the hours form, and that'll save anything that you enter into any of those fields on that form. Some folks like to do everything on IPT and track everything on here. Some folks will keep a notebook and then enter all of their hours at the end of the month into IPT. Either way, it doesn't matter, as long as your hours are getting reported in your service hour records by the 5th of the month following. So say you've finished up, April, you've got all your hours in, you go to submit, you want to do that by the 5th of May. So, and then say May is done, you'll want to report all of those hours by the 5th of June. So we want to make sure that these hours are getting inputted and then submitted within 5 days of the end of the month that you're submitting them for. Again, site supervisors and UCC will approve all of your hours and then send them back if corrections are needed. You can also contact me if you notice a correction's needed, but it hasn't been signed off by your site supervisor or myself. Just let me know and I can clear the signature on that form. Another item to note is that we do not want you to record hours ahead of time. It's pretty simple. If you haven't worked them, don't record them. Okay, looking at the dashboard feature on IPT, if you click into this, this will display your total cumulative hours worked towards your minimum hours requirement. So you can see total direct service, total member development hours, and then the total cumulative hours that you've worked, and then the remaining hours you have left to work. Another really nice feature of this dashboard function is the hours per week. This will tell you, based on the service term start and end date that is set for you, approximately how many hours per week you'll need to do to complete your term of service on time. So once you start logging hours in here, it'll divide your total hours requirement and then take into consideration the total hours that you've worked, and this hours per week number will be calculated based on that. So that number will change as you start to submit hours. Okay, that was everything on IPT. If you have any questions on IPT, I will be your main resource for anything on there. If you need a password reset, shoot me an email or give me a call and let me know, and I'm happy to get that done as soon as possible. Essentially, I will be your resource for all things IPT related. So direct all questions or concerns to me. Okay, moving on to the second website, My AmeriCorps. This website is your official AmeriCorps service history file, so no matter where in the nation you work as an AmeriCorps member, there will be a record of it on this website. This website will have an enrollment and exit form for each AmeriCorps term that you do. And again, this is where you can request student loan forbearance and interest accrual payback benefits. This is also where you'll access your education award money once you've been officially exited from your AmeriCorps term of service. And then this is also where your 1099 tax form will be. So this tax form is used if you pay out your AmeriCorps education award money to an institution or loan company, wherever you have your loans through. So you won't need this tax form unless you use your AmeriCorps Ed Award money. But the form is available on here. It will also be mailed to you, but it's kind of nice to be able to access it online as well. If you need assistance or help with anything on the myamericorps.gov website, you'll want to call this number, the 1-800-942-2677. And folks at the hotline will be able to assist you with any of the items listed on this slide. Okay, I just want to touch real quick on the importance of data and documentation. So the enrollment forms that you complete, the first and most important documentation that UCC and AmeriCorps gets from you. So all those will be completed before your start date. And then we want to make sure that your service hours are recorded accurately every month. And then we'll have some quantitative and qualitative data that we'll look to collect. So we'll go over that here in just a minute. This is all important cumulatively to show the impact that you're having on the community here in Utah. And then to track your status as an AmeriCorps member, and to ensure you're successfully completing your term. And everything that you enter, all of this data helps secure future UCC and AmeriCorps funding. So ensuring that you're getting everything entered on time and correctly is really, really important, not just for you and your site supervisor, but also for the UCC program and AmeriCorps as a whole. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about this quantitative and qualitative data. So we already talked about the enrollment forms and the service hours on IPT. Dropbox is something that you'll receive an email invitation to be a part of, and this is the individual placement Dropbox. And what you'll record on here is quantitative and qualitative data on the following items. These include the number of community volunteers you mobilize, the number of hours that those volunteers serve, the number of K through 12 students that you performed environmental ed or outreach with, and then the number of adults 18 and over that you perform environmental ed or outreach with. And then we're also going to look for 3 to 4 sentences describing a significant service activity or accomplishment from that specific month. So just like your IPT service hours, this data is also collected on a month-to-month basis. This is what the progress and demographics data collection recording form will look like on Dropbox. So you'll get into Dropbox, you'll find the folder with your service site name, and then in there will be a spreadsheet that looks exactly like this, specifically for you, where you will report on, we'll look at volunteer mobilization up here at the top first, the total amount of community volunteers that you mobilize that month. You do not want to duplicate numbers. So if someone shows up for a volunteer project, the same person 4 times in, the month of June, you're going to only count them as one volunteer for that month. But then you can count them again for July, again for August. But we just want to ensure that on that month-to-month basis that we're only counting someone one time. So even if they are recurring, they only count as one volunteer for that month. And we also want to look into then if you can discern between these different demographics, so disadvantaged children and youth, college students, baby boomers. This isn't as big a deal for us. I mean, if you can divvy up folks into these categories, that's great. But the main thing we're looking at is the total number of volunteers that you worked with for that month. And then the second thing is how many hours did these volunteers serve? So this is, of all the volunteers you have for the month of, say June, you also want to make sure that you're tracking how many total hours all of them combined are working for that month. This data is definitely going to be hard to keep track of. A lot of folks will use a little notebook to do a day-to-day count for all of this. And I'm under no illusion that data collection is going to have some errors, but we want to get the best, most high-quality data that we can. And so it's going to be up to you at your service site to make sure that you're getting accurate numbers as much as you can. Okay, so volunteer mobilization, we talked about, total number of volunteers and then how many collective hours they served. And then the next item we want to look at is population served that receive environmental ed or outreach. So again, we want to divvy up, between children or youth and then adults 18 and over. How many folks you are performing environmental education to. So these numbers, so say you have a class of, 10 or 20 or 30, that's the number that you'll record. So how many folks you have that you are teaching. And again, divide up into children and adults. And then you'll want to look at pre and post surveying. We'll talk a little bit about that in the next couple of slides. So essentially what that is figuring out, so you're teaching this group of 20 individuals, 20 20 10-year-olds, and we want to look at how many of them are actually gaining knowledge from the lesson that you're teaching or from the environmental education that you're providing. And we'll do that through pre and post surveying. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Environmental stewardship, and then site-specific accomplishments. So the environmental stewardship, it's likely that you will not be using these fields or collecting data on these items. If you are, let me know and we can talk through how to do that. But you should primarily just be using the volunteer mobilization and population serve sections. So pre and post surveying for environmental education, what we're going to look at is figuring out, how effective the education you're providing actually is, and if it's sticking with the folks that you're giving it to. And the way we do that is through pre and post surveys. And essentially, what this means, as an example, is say you are teaching 20 kids, 20 10-year-olds about the monarch butterfly. So maybe at the beginning of the class, you'll ask a question like, how many of you know what a monarch butterfly is? And just have them raise their hands, say 6 of them raise their hands. So that's the pre-survey. And then the post-survey, what we want to look at is once you've completed your environmental education, once you've completed your lesson with those 20 individuals, you'll want to ask the same question again. So, how many of you now know what a monarch butterfly is? And then you count the number that raised their hands. And so what you want to look at is the total, which is 20. And then you'll add, those 6 that knew what it was at the beginning, they'll also raise their hand at the end. And then how many more of those individuals raise their hands? So say you get, 18 out of 20. Now know what a monarch butterfly is. And the hope is you'll get, 20 out of 20 so that everyone that you've taught, now fully understands, what you were trying to teach them. So what the methodology is essentially, you asking a question at the beginning of the class based on whatever you're going to be teaching that day, and then asking a question again at the end of the class to determine how many folks successfully gained increased knowledge from the environmental education that you performed. So again, going back and looking at the spreadsheet, you'll see here, this row, through pre and post surveying. So through asking those questions, how many of the total individuals engaged through environmental ed showed an increased understanding of the environmental topics that you presented? So that number will be recorded here. So you'll have your total numbers in the classes up here, and then how many of those folks in those classes actually, gained increased knowledge from what you taught that day. And again, that's through pre-post survey methodology is what UCC likes to call it. We don't need to collect individual pre or post surveys for everything that you teach, but we do need to have one on file on your Dropbox. So you can just save that in your specific sites folder where the progress report spreadsheet is kept. Just so that I can see on my end that you are performing pre and post surveying and that you understand how to do it. It's fairly simple once you get going with it. But if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Happy to answer those. And again, the spreadsheet needs to be reported every month. Most individual placements will just turn it in at the same time on, the 5th or before of the month following that you're reporting for. So with your service hours, just to ensure that everything is getting done and completed on time. Okay, so the biggest takeaways, want to ensure that service hours and your progress reports are done by the 5th of the month following the month that you're reporting for. So this is a pretty long PowerPoint with a lot of different aspects, but it'll be pretty simple once you get going in your term of service and get started on everything. And really the only stuff that you have due every month is progress reporting and your service hours on IPT. Thank you so much for the time that you gave to this training today. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, nicole.kreiser@usu.edu, or give me a call. My number is 717-623-8826. I'm happy to help in any way that I can with any of this. And again, thank you so much for your time.